Welcome to the Michael Rivero What Really Happened radio program.
And welcome to our show today. It is Friday, January 15th, 2021. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. It's been a heck of a week, and unfortunately next week is probably going to even be a little bit crazier. But since we're here, let's get right on into it. Mike is in our control room, twiddling the dials and keeping us out of trouble. And as usual, we're going to do news until we run out of news, and then we're going to open the phone lines for your comments and questions and observations and opinions here. Now, story coming on from several sources, but this one's from the Gateway Pundit. Apparently, President Trump has declassified all of the Russia collusion documents, and they're coming out starting right now. One report said there were some redactions, but I'm not able to confirm that one. But last night, Lou Dobbs reported Trump ordered the release of the Obamagate intelligence documents. So this is the revenge of Trump on those who stole the election from him. Now, I've received more than one flyer, if you will, talking about an armed event at various state capitals in Washington, D.C. on Inauguration Day. And all I can say is don't fall for it. It is a setup. Okay? Remember how they set up, Trump's rally last week? Sent in agent provocateurs to cause trouble. If you show up with guns, that will be the excuse for a gun ban, and that's what they want to do because they are that afraid of us. So don't attend these so-called armed events. Don't promote them. Don't pass it along. And just everybody needs to stay peaceful and calm, and just not get put into a situation where you can be lured or tricked or encouraged into doing something that the media will use to demonize conservatism, Trump supporters in general, Trump himself. So please be very careful. It just feels like it's a setup. All this talk about armed protests at the state capitals. Now, the FBI is still out there sounding the warning that this is going to happen, but nobody can actually find any evidence to support it. So this is another classic FBI deception, and they've done so many of them throughout their history. COINTELPRO, good example there. The framing of James Earl Ray, declaring Vince Foster a suicide, and on and on. This is what the FBI does, okay? They're not the good guys, no matter what you see on TV. Now, here's where it gets a little interesting. Fired FBI official Andrew McCabe says President Trump's video message demanding peace and denouncing political violence is actually coded language that calls for violence. I mean, talk about really being out there. And so McCabe is out there saying that, Trump's call for peace is actually a call to violence. He called it a dog whistle. And McCabe meets shark, shark meet McCabe here. Remember 4 years ago when Donald Trump was being inaugurated? There were hundreds of violent left-wing rioters that smashed windows, set limousine on fire in Washington, D.C. The government later dropped all charges against the rioters. Just a little something to keep in mind as we head into Inauguration Day. Apparently, there's been yet another video surface showing the police allowing the crowd into the Capitol building. So again, this was all a setup, and everybody who was there to be peaceful, they got played, and don't let it happen again. Oh, anyway, Rudy Giuliani is out there laying out the video evidence that the January 6th Capitol event was a false flag. And he's starting to say that's why he calls them Black Lives Matter. Apparently even some Democratic House members are saying this had to be an inside job, which makes a lot of sense. I mean, that building is one of the best protected buildings in the country. And yet the Antifa, Black Lives Matter, just waltzed on in and caused all kinds of easily repaired, inexpensive damage in front of the news camera. Now, another story, this one coming out of Investment Watch blog. Apparently, somebody is launching an investigation into a group of visitors that were given a guided tour in the Capitol building on January 5th, the day before the events unfolded, for which Trump has been impeached a second time. Let's see. This is a warning story coming out of the Gateway Pundit here. There are about 20,000 troops deployed to the nation's capital, National Guard. They are being allowed to carry weapons, and we are being told they are authorized to use lethal force. Now, all of these guards and all of this armor and all the guns and the lethal force here, to inaugurate what we are told is the most popular president in U.S. history. So they're turning Washington, D.C., the entire country, into a police state here. The Washington Monument will be closed. The National Mall will be closed. Airbnb is canceling all reservations in the area for the inauguration. Hotels are being pressured to do the same. Apparently, Hotel Tonight has gone along with that. That's a subsidiary of Airbnb. So they're trying to, lock the Capitol down. And they did that, back on the 6th, to try and discourage people from showing up. But 1 million people did show up. Okay, article coming on out of uns.com, American Pravda, our disputed election. This is not going away. I know the corporate media is out there saying, oh, there's nothing there. It was an honest election. How could you begin to doubt our democracy? Well, the evidence before our eyes. And, there is so much evidence out there. All the pre-election polls had shown Biden with a comfortable lead, but they're rigging the polls to sort of explain away, what was going to happen, on election night here. But just as had been the case 4 years ago, the actual votes tabulated revealed an entirely contrary outcome. According to the official vote count, Biden-Harris ended up millions of votes ahead, having racked up huge leads in overwhelmingly Democratic states. And but so forth and so on, and basically just going on about all the fraud that we witnessed here. Now, Peter Navarro, part of Trump's team, has issued his third major report on the historic election fraud, and once again confirms Trump actually won that election by a landslide. That's why they had to be so obvious to steal it for Biden. Trump was way ahead, and that's why they had to wheel in, these cartons full of generated votes, run them through the machine over and over again for Biden, which was caught on video, I might add. And all of this other stuff. They hit the panic button, and it became so obvious the American people just noticed it. Latest poll is that despite the total media whitewash, 78% of Trump voters believe the election was rigged and stolen. Another poll says 30% of Democrats think the election was rigged and stolen. So that basically, works on out to being, a little more than half of the American population knows this election was stolen. Now, I have railed against Donald Trump for his limp handling of the election fraud issue going back to when he took office in 2017. And yes, the Democratic states were fighting back against him, but based on the Supreme Court decision that presidential elections are federal elections, Trump had the authority to go on in there and demand reform. And instead, Trump backed down, and he handed the whole election fraud issue to the Department of Homeland Security. Okay, and the Department of Homeland Security has officially concluded there was no evidence of fraud in the 2020 election, and the Trump administration has now fired the senior DHS cyber official. As well he should. See, Trump coming into office, he was very naive. He's a businessman. He's not a politician. And he just never really learned until probably the last couple of months just how dirty and corrupt national politics can be. And unfortunately, it was too late to learn that lesson. And a little bit of good news there. The Supreme Court has ruled against universal vote by mail in Texas. The Democrats, of course, screaming and wringing their hands and saying, unfair, unfair. How are we supposed to steal our elections in the future? And there's a new poll out saying that 2/3 of Republicans approve of Donald Trump's behavior, even after the riot at the Capitol building. And supporters of both parties are saying the country is tearing itself apart. And that is certainly true as well. Now, this next story broke yesterday, but I wanted to get a little more confirmation and clarity about what was going on. Roger Stone's wife is in the hospital. And apparently she was out walking her dog when some leftist riding a bicycle basically collided with her and then proceeded to give her a severe beating, putting her in the hospital. Now, Roger Stone was not with her at the time. But again, this is what we've come to, you know, physical attacks and physical violence. It's just ugly out there. Meanwhile, of course, you know, we're heading to the inauguration, and Trump's White House, we've already had resignations, and people are sending out their resumes there and wondering what they're going to do, you know, for a job here. So I had an idea, and that is I'm going to start a GoFundMe page so that we can give everybody in the Trump administration a $600 check, and that's just going to make everything all better, won't it? So let's talk about corporate media and the ongoing fight over online freedom of speech. Apparently, according to an executive at Parlay, apparently they are courting Apple's Tim Cook as an ally. He has apparently offered to lift the App Store ban if Parlay purges content that incites violence. Now, obviously, this would mean that Parlay has gone down the dark path toward online censorship. So better get on over there to Gab. By the way, I checked out Gab. They've got their new servers online, and the response is decent there. Apparently, following Facebook suspending Trump's account, he got almost 150,000 likes, according to Newsweek. So people understand when, you know, somebody's not being treated fairly. And I think most American people do have an instinct for fairness, and they don't like it when somebody's not being treated fairly here. Project Veritas has struck again. Apparently, a Twitter insider secretly recorded CEO Jack Dorsey talking about further political censorship. And basically on this tape, which is linked to whatreallyhappened.com, he's basically saying it doesn't start and stop with Donald Trump. They're going to be going after conservatives in general, just as hard as they can. To try and make sure that only the liberal point of view, the Marxist point of view, is all you're going to see on the internet. Another story, this one coming out of Breitbart. Apparently, Google is drawing criticism for an experiment, is what they're saying they did, where they blocked some Australian news sites from search results. And critics call it a chilling illustration of the company's stranglehold on internet search. Good reason to go over to DuckDuckGo. And apparently, Google is facing major criticism after it was revealed that the company removed some local news content from the search results in Australia. And so Google is drawing some flack there. And I hope we're going to see a lot of entrepreneurs start up, you know, new unconnected search engines and so forth. Ben Swan was out there with a video saying that the cure to all these problems of online censorship is decentralization. And it's interesting that he says that because the internet was originally created to be decentralized and impossible to control and censor. It was designed to survive the loss of 1/3 of its connectivity and still continue working. But all these social media companies like Google and Facebook and Twitter, you know, basically lured people in to these points of control, and now they're starting to use it. Story coming on out of Able Danger. basically saying that the powers that think they are will start deplatforming sites beyond their control using the DNS system. Now, DNS is basically when you type the name of a site like whatreallyhappened.com or republicbroadcasting.org, the computer doesn't know what it means. The name of the website gets sent to a domain name server, and the server then tells the computer the IP address the site is at, and your computer then makes the link and accesses the web page. Now, a lot of the Patriot websites have dedicated IPs. I used to have a dedicated IP, but unfortunately, when SiteGround forced my move from a dedicated server to a virtual server, I lost my dedicated IP. So I get a lot of emails saying, what's your dedicated IP? I don't have one anymore. Sorry about that. Over at WhatsApp, downloads have fallen by more than 2 million compared to the previous week, as millions turn to Telegram and Signal. Now, apparently, you know, WhatsApp is owned by Facebook. They're definitely losing a lot of money over all of this banning and censorship and control information here. So, another article coming on out from uns.com here. Apparently, people are starting to ask, how much lawbreaking did Joe Biden incite in Kenosha with his demand to, quote, dismantle systemic racism, end quote, after the first night of rioting? And it certainly seems to me that that is a far clearer case of incitement to violence than that with which Donald Trump is being accused. And there was a lot of violence that followed. Another article, this one from uns.com, talking about the amnesia of the anarcho-tyrannists, and basically reminding us all that all during the year 2020, there were riots, burnings, buildings destroyed, violence all across the streets of America, and nobody really tried to do anything about it. You know, very few arrests, and the corporate media and the Democrats tried to make it look like this was something good going on. You know, and now that they've had a little bit of a manufactured taste of their own medicine, all of a sudden, now it's bad. Okay, actress and Me Too activist Rose McGowan is criticizing the Democratic Party, saying that impeachment is a cult propaganda, and says the Congress should not even be wasting their time with this while America suffers through a pandemic and a crashed economy. And she's absolutely right. And a lot of people made the same comment. Why are you wasting time on this one here? Now, a group of House Democrats have introduced a resolution to amend the Constitution to abolish the Electoral College and institute a direct national popular vote for president. And I know this has been a subject of much controversy and debate through the years, but again, why are they bothering with this when there is so much else going wrong with our country? And it basically shows that politics are above people in the halls of the United States Congress. Now, yesterday we reported on how Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez came on out saying that there needed to be a way for the government to clamp down on media and clamp down on non-officially proved news, and she has drawn a huge backlash from people saying this is wholly un-American. It is a violation of the First Amendment, and you know, maybe she can go back to being a bartender. I'm sure she was a much better bartender than she is a congressional representative here. Over at CNN, I mean, everyone's saying unity, 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 which means do things the liberal way here. But CNN's Don Lemon came on out with a comment saying that if you voted for Trump, you're with the Klan, the Nazis, and the rioters. Another reason not to watch CNN. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back. My mistake, I'm muted. My apologies to everybody. Once again, I need to remind you all that Republic Broadcasting Network needs your continued support to go on providing good information to the American people so that they can make good choices. So the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. And of course, all this contact information is available at the top of republicbroadcasting.org. The network thanks you for your continued support. Alrighty, getting on back to the news, we're going to talk a little bit about COVID-19. It's still out there, or so we are being told. And apparently there's a big debate right now over this inability to isolate the virus, because apparently the PCR test is looking for strands of DNA that can exist in places other than the coronavirus. They don't have a unique sample that is, only found in that particular virus, and that's probably the reason they're getting so many false positives here. Now, over at Johns Hopkins, Dr. Jerry Spivak, who's an expert on blood disorders, told the New York Times that he believes it's a medical certainty that Pfizer's COVID vaccine caused the death of Dr. Gregory Michael. And the Florida Health Department and the CDC are investigating the death of the doctor, who died January 3rd from a rare autoimmune disorder he developed on December 21st, 3 days after receiving Pfizer's COVID vaccine. And one of my doctors says, anytime you hear the word autoimmune, you're dealing with an adverse vaccine reaction here. Apparently over in Norway, they're covering up there for the pharmaceuticals. Apparently there have been at least 13 people have died in Norway from the side effects of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. But apparently the Norwegian drugs regulator, their version of the FDA, is out there saying that they see nothing alarming with these figures, that they were old people and they were probably going to go anyway. And one of the harsh realities of the vaccine industry is every vaccine is put on out there with an expectation of a certain acceptable number of deaths from the vaccine. Of course, what's acceptable to the pharmaceutical industry may not be acceptable to the families of those who actually died. Apparently, after all this time, the World Health Organization is finally getting to investigate Wuhan, China, and either confirm or deny that it was the origin point. Remember the story we mentioned earlier in the week where they discovered a case had existed in Italy the previous November. So anyway, another article here. Oh, and this is talking about what I mentioned a little bit earlier. No more fake news here. The World Health Organization protocols Pfizer used to produce the mRNA vaccine do not appear to identify any nucleotide sequences that are unique to the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Apparently, one of the investigators, Fran Leader, questioned Pfizer, and they said, yeah, the DNA template does not come directly from an isolated virus from an infected person, okay? And if you don't have the isolated virus, how can you sequence it? It's guesswork. They're guessing to get the product out there as fast as they can because of the financial situation. And there have been some hideous mistakes made because of that, like thalidomide. And there were suspicions that the cause of AIDS may have been something else other than HIV, but everybody leapt on HIV and patented tests and treatments, and they're off to the bank here. Now, here's where it gets a little bit interesting with the lockdown. This is from Breitbart. Apparently, HSBC in Great Britain says that it reserves the right to cancel the accounts of customers who refuse to wear masks inside the bank's branches. And apparently the British-based bank, the Hong Kong and Shanghai Banking Corporation, founded in 1865, has declared masks are mandatory unless you have a medical exemption. So they're really getting hard about this thing. Apparently, Joe Biden has announced a $1.9 trillion new COVID relief bill that will include $1,400 checks to make a total of $2,000 to every American citizen. We're going to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back. And welcome back to our show here. And we're talking about Joe Biden has unveiled or announced $1.9 trillion with a T in a new COVID relief bill. And it's going to include $1,400 checks for all Americans, which will take the total with the $600 you've supposedly already received to $2,000. Now, the plan also includes a $15 minimum wage. The upside, of course, is people working minimum wage get more money to spend. The downside is that small businesses are going to be under a strain and may have to let people go. And apparently part of this program is $160 billion to solve the dismal vaccine rollout. And Biden is promising 100 million shots will be delivered in his first 100 days. And we will see if that in fact manifests. All right, getting on to the international news here. There, according to Jewish Insider, there are 53 Jewish groups lobbying Biden to adopt Israel's definition of anti-Semitism, which is simply that any criticism of Israel is anti-Semitic. Which is like saying that any criticism of Nazi Germany is hatred of the German people, because without that, I mean, the Germans didn't really do anything that wrong here. So apparently, they're working on getting Biden to sign on to that. We know that Biden is a friend of Israel, and it could definitely be even worse than under Trump moving the embassy to Jerusalem here. But they really want to get that definition there because Israel is tired of people complaining about how they behave. Well, it's how they behave is the problem. Story coming on out of Information Clearinghouse: Israel is losing the fight to obscure its apartheid character. And apparently they're saying for more than a decade, a handful of former Israeli politicians and diplomats identified with what might be termed the peace process industry have warned that without a two-state solution, Israel is in danger of becoming an apartheid state. Gee, you think? And the most notable among them include Ehud Barak, Ehud Olmert, two former prime ministers, and John Kerry, who served as Obama's Secretary of State. Their chief concern is that without the alibi of some kind of Palestinian state, the legitimacy of Israel as a Jewish state will increasingly come under scrutiny. And it certainly has, or Israel wouldn't be out there trying to say that criticism of Israel is just Jewish hate. All righty, now then, a little bit of economic news here. Amazon has been hit with a class action antitrust lawsuit claiming that it colluded with major publishers to illegally drive up ebook prices by 30%. And apparently Amazon was colluding with the big five publishing houses, which is Hachette, HarperCollins, Macmillan, Penguin Random House, and Simon & Schuster. Now, Amazon controls 89% of the ebook market, and it does qualify as a monopoly and should be treated as one. Okay, right now in the United States, a 30-year fixed rate mortgage comes in at 2.79%. And that's just amazing. I remember when I was young, it was sort of 8% was considered good, but this is 2.79. And apparently the 10-year Treasury bill is yields are rising a little bit here. Now, over at Northern Trust Bank, they're blaming lower interest rates for the fact they've had to lay off 500 people this last week. And apparently the Bank of New York Mellon is going to be following along as well and letting people go. Over in New York, and I'm sure this is probably true all over the country right now. But just in New York, according to this article from Dama Good, New York City residents owe more than $1 billion with a B in missed rent, with 185,000 apartments at least 2 months behind on payments due to the COVID-19 pandemic and the shutdown of the economy. Okay, now the other day, Donald Trump came on out with an executive order blacklisting a whole bunch of Chinese companies for their links with the Chinese Communist Party military. One of those companies, Xiaomi, says it's not connected with the military and should not have been put on the blacklist. So apparently it was just yesterday that it was added, and they're complaining about that. Now, speaking of that executive order blacklisting certain Chinese companies, this is actually going to have a negative impact on the Biden's investments in China. So that's going to hurt a little bit. A little bit of security advice, home advice right now. We actually got a notification from our local police department here in Santa Claus, which is as bucolic as you can imagine, saying that thefts were up and reminding us, if you see something, say something. And it came as a little bit of a shock because it's just not that kind of a community. But wherever you are, apparently burglary gangs are now disguising themselves as delivery drivers to gain entry to your home. So be very careful. Just tell them whatever the package is supposed to be, leave it on the step, and go forward from there here. Getting into the realm of political correctness here, over in Cupertino, California, which is part of Silicon Valley, an elementary school, young kids, they're forcing third graders to deconstruct their racial and sexual identity and then rank themselves according to power and privilege. I mean, this is just outright brainwashing. Whatever happened to reading, writing, and arithmetic? Just amazing here. All right, getting into some space news here. Third time's a charm. Virgin Orbit will attempt to send its Launcher 1 into orbit this coming Sunday after the rocket frees from a carrier plane 35,000 feet above the surface. So it's being drop-launched, and that may mean less fuel required to get into orbit. And let's see. Okay, there we are. NASA's Curiosity probe has now been on Mars for 3,000 days. That thing just keeps going and going and going and going. And the latest rover, Perseverance, is headed for Mars and will be there just in a matter of weeks. And Perseverance is intentionally designed to look for the presence of life, and that will be certainly a joyous occasion for Gilbert Levin and yours truly here. But it's exciting times here. Okay, we're going to go ahead and open up the phone lines now. Area code 512-248-8252. And let's start taking your phone calls. Meanwhile, apparently the little drill on the Mars lander, they've been trying to get it to work for 2 years. They finally gave up and said they cannot get down into the soil to take its temperature. So a little bit of heartbreak over there. Meanwhile, NASA has revealed plans to launch the Sphere-X telescope in 2024 to look for clues about the Big Bang and signs of life beyond the Earth. And Sphere-X is going to map the entire sky 4 times. Of course, you know how I feel about the Big Bang, but certainly the search for extraterrestrial life is of interest to all of us, and would be a really, really good thing. Getting into the world of computers, Google published a 6-part report detailing a sophisticated hacking operation that the company actually detected last year, and it targets owners of both Android and Windows devices. Systems running the Windows 10 anniversary update were shielded from 2 exploits even before Microsoft issued patches for them. Now, the attacks were carried out via 2 exploit servers, delivering different exploit chains via watering hole attacks. One server targeted the Windows users, the other targeted Android. And Google said that both exploit servers used Google Chrome vulnerabilities to gain an initial foothold on victim devices. And once they get that initial entry point, they could deploy an OS-level exploit to get more control of the victim's devices. And, considering what a problem this is, I have to keep asking, why is the government not making this a priority issue to solve? I mean, we're talking about billions of dollars in lost productivity from these damaged computers. Now, remember, Amazon Web Services, that's the same company that deplatformed Parler. And once again, they are applying to run the Pentagon's defense systems. And who knows, maybe that's going to be their reward for getting rid of Parler here. Now, a little bit of good news. German authorities have taken down the world's largest darknet marketplace. They arrested an Australian who used this marketplace to sell drugs, stolen credit card data, and other illegal goods. So a little bit of good news. Somebody's doing something. Meanwhile, the National Security Agency published a guide on the benefits and risks of encrypted DNS protocols, such as DNS over HTTPS, or which is known as DOH. And they are widely used right now. But apparently, NSA is warning that while technologies like DOH can encrypt and hide user DNS queries from network observers, they also have downsides when used inside corporate networks. Apparently, there are some exploits that are there. This one is a real warning, and this is coming from bleepingcomputer.com. There is an unpatched 0-day exploit in Microsoft Windows 10 that will allow hackers to literally corrupt an entire NTFS formatted hard drive with a one-line command. And apparently Bleeping Computer ran tests here. The one-liner can be delivered hidden inside a Windows shortcut file, a zip archive, batch files, or various other vectors to trigger hard drive errors that corrupt the file system index instantly. And it doesn't appear to be recoverable. So again, you got to, keep an eye on security. All right, over the past week, security researcher Malware Hunter Team, all one word, has seen an uptick in verified Twitter accounts hacked in a scam promoting another fake Elon Musk cryptocurrency giveaway. Remember the old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Apparently these accounts will reply to tweets and promote a scam where Musk is allegedly giving away free cryptocurrency. I like Elon Musk. I don't think he gives anything away for free here. And the tweets will contain links that redirect to Medium article promoting the fake giveaway. The articles contain further links to the scam landing pages that state if you send Bitcoins to the listed address, they will send you back twice the amount. 'Tis the season for the scammers here. Okay, the possibility of an all-out internet shutdown is more likely than ever. Have you thought about how you would prepare? Now, we all know that the government of the United States of America and the government of Israel have been drooling over war with Iran for a very long time, and Iran has been very patient with all the provocations that have been sent against it, the propaganda like the laptop, oh death. It's thought that the war might be started with some kind of a false flag, like an impulse over the United States blamed on Iran, or a cyber attack blamed on Iran shutting down our power systems. And I refer to the earlier story we had where Iran and Pakistan and the Vatican all had their power systems shut down, and nobody seems to know how it was done. So how would you prepare? Well, everybody, you should have a prepper survival kit anyway. And interestingly enough, the Army came out with an announcement today saying that you should make sure you have a good radio inside your prep kit. Now, for those of us who are preppers, it's just common sense. But apparently they still want you to be able to get the official news in the event the electricity or the internet goes away. Now, over at Facebook, they had a little bit of embarrassment here. They had a chat bot called Leluda, developed by Seoul-based startup ScatterLab, and it works within Facebook Messenger, and it's an artificially intelligent system. And basically, yes, the lines are open. Having some tech issues today. And apparently this AI chatbot evolves, and they've had to take it down because the chatbot was saying that she despised gay people, would rather die than be disabled, and calling the Me Too movement ignorant. So interesting evolution there. Apparently, it learns how to chat by monitoring other conversations on Facebook. Apparently, UK satellite communications firm OneWeb has received $1.4 billion in funding from SoftBank to take on Elon Musk's Starlink. And boy, are the astronomers going to be unhappy about that because of all that clutter that's visible in the sky shortly after sunset and shortly before sunrise. Obviously, when everything's in night, the satellites aren't a problem. But it is an issue here. Apparently, entangled photons have been sent between two drones hovering a kilometer apart. And they're saying this could be the beginning of a quantum internet. That would be fun. All right, we're going to take a break for commercials. We got callers waiting on the line, and we will be right back. Welcome back to our show here, and the phone lines are loaded up, so let's begin with Mo in Florida. Hello, Mo. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, Michael, you are famous for saying something about when you want to see a dictator, force him to act like one, right?
Yes.
What was that exact quote?
The fastest way to bring down a dictatorship is to force them to act like one where everybody can see it.
And you are exactly right. In 1938, Hitler signed a new gun control act.
Yes.
And that's exactly. Have you seen this? The latest news with the NRAs filing bankruptcy. They're moving to Texas. They're coming for the guns, Mike.
Yes, they are.
And we know what that means, don't we?
Yes. Blood in the streets.
They're coming for the guns.
Yep.
And all the patriots listen to this broadcast of yours. Lock and load, boys. I'm not saying I'm agreeing with you. Don't go out there, marching with guns. But this is what's happening. And you know that Harris and Biden has already said they're coming for the guns.
Yes.
This is exactly what's happening in history.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing you really have to defend yourself. I mean, it's kind of silly now because they could drone your whole house.
Yes.
But at least you have a chance with a gun. And I know Mike.
I keep going back to that quote from Alexander Solzhenitsyn from the Gulag Archipelago, and how we burned in the camps later, thinking, what would have things been like if every security operative, when he went out at night to make an arrest, had been uncertain whether he would return alive, and had to say goodbye to his family. Or if during periods of mass arrests, as for example in Leningrad, when they arrested a quarter of the entire city, people had not simply sat there in their lairs, paling with terror at every bang of the downstairs door and at every step on the staircase, but had understood they had nothing left to lose and had boldly set up in the downstairs hall an ambush of half a dozen people with axes, hammers, pokers, or whatever else was at hand. The organs would have very quickly suffered a shortage of officers, and notwithstanding all of Stalin's thirst, the cursed machine would have ground to a halt. If we didn't love freedom enough, and even more, we had no awareness of the real situation, we purely and simply deserved everything that happened afterward. So that's a quote. Everybody needs to be remembering that one.
Yes, you just don't want to be premature and give them like they suckered Trump into this. I'm not even a Trump fan like you. I mean, no. I see his flaws. I think
I'm not even really a Trump fan anymore. I mean, I supported Trump because I hated Hillary.
Same exact here. I mean, we're brothers. Brothers from another mother, Mike. And I totally. That's exactly. I mean, she's just pure evil. But I think Trump is a narcissistic.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he does. I think when you look into his eyes, and my wife is a very good judge of character.
Yeah.
Looks in Trump's eyes.
Yep.
Can you hold me over?
Yeah, I'm going to hold you over. Stay on the line. We'll come right back to you after station identification. Welcome back to our show, hour number 2. The phone lines are open. Area code 512-248-8252. We're talking with Mo in Florida, and you were telling us that your wife is a fine judge of character and was able to gain insight just by looking at Trump's eyes.
Yeah, I think that she's very good, and she also said Pence was a snake.
Yes.
And I think she was right on the money there. Women go, they go by their feelings, and I think that's exactly where it's at. But, whatever happens, Mike, I think the bottom line is, if they take the guns, when they come for the guns, which they're already doing, it's a very, very quick step before, communism takes over. Another thing I wanted to mention, Mike, was this seawall with this, I forget his, who's the, what's his name, Seawall? Or
I'm not sure of the context.
Who's the Fang?
Swalwell.
Yeah, I keep calling him Seawall. Yeah, I mean, this guy's a communist. He's sleeping with a communist spy, and Biden just put him in charge. I mean, What is going on here? This is crazy. This is in your face. It's like It's like rubbing our face. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, I think it's just it's very close, Mike, and I just I don't know what else to say other than lock and load, but don't be foolish.
Yep. It's going to get ugly, and it's probably, nobody's going to organize an army and march on Washington, D.C. It's probably going to start with lone wolf guerrilla operations. But, they want the guns because they're afraid of us. I think what happened in Washington, D.C. last week with the sheer number of people who showed up really, I think, got through to them just how discontented the American people have become with this government.
Yeah, but I really think Trump got suckered into that. He should have said something like, if anybody breaches the walls to the Capitol or goes in there, it's Antifa. Be careful. Yeah. And Trump did say we're a march for peace.
Yes.
Yet he got suckered in. He got suckered into that whole thing. And it's used against him. I don't know, Mike. I really honestly don't know. I'm confused. I know that I'm not saying Trump's a good guy. I'm very, very concerned about Jared and Ivanka and the whole Abad Lubavitch thing. It's. I think we're all being played, Mike. And
well, we're always being played. I mean, that's the reality of life in America. We're always being played, whether it's 9/11 or the USS Liberty or John Kennedy's assassination. We're always being played.
Well, when they take you off air,
Yes.
I'm going in the bunker.
Well, I'm actually still surprised that I am still on the air and my YouTube channels haven't been touched. But I figure, I'm such a minor annoyance, but sooner or later they'll probably get around to me.
Well, Mike, we all love you, and you're a true patriot, and I don't know what else to do except, just brace for the impact, because
yes.
when this creep Biden and Kamala, they come for the guns, I think that's when I think it's like the Lexington thing, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, every patriot has to take a stand. And I'm not saying, march on Washington or do something overt, which gives them the license to crack down like they did with this last deal. But,
yes.
Like the Chinese said, we can't take over America because behind every blade of grass is a gun, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I grew up like you, Mike, with guns. And
yes.
We believe in it. It's for hunting, but, like the Constitution says, it's for a tyrannical government, and that's your last chance of defense. Everybody listening to Michael's broadcast, lock and load, boys. Here we go.
Okay, well, Mo, thank you very much for the phone call here, and we're going to switch over to Glenn in Philadelphia. Hello, Glenn. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Hey, Mo.
Hi.
Hey, Mo. Wise guy. Mo said nothing for about 3 minutes there. I was kind of waiting. He said lock and load 3 times, but then he would back off from not wanting to sound violent. You got to make up your mind and decide what kind of demarcation point you're going to set for when you actually do lock and load, or if you actually do lock and load.
Yes.
I called about, I believe you said that Biden promised 100 million doses of vaccine in his first 100 days.
Yes.
Did anybody check with the producers to see if they can crank out 1 million vials per day? Because that's a pretty formidable number. And,
I don't think Biden's going to be able to deliver on that one.
Yeah, so the numbers don't seem to wash. 1 million is a lot. But, in the physical world, not in the financial realm, of course, that's all just hypothetical.
Yes.
Trillion here or trillion there eventually adds up to some real money.
Yes, indeed.
And so we had the vaccine. Oh, you mentioned Amazon colluding with major publishers. Isn't the word collude pretty much the same as the word conspire? So isn't that a conspiracy theory, and should it not therefore be banned?
Well, the word that was in the original source article was collusion, which if you're building a class action lawsuit, I think collusion is probably a better word for the situation.
Right. Well, basically, I was going to. You have people cooperating to do evil. That's my definition of conspiracy. And what's funny is the biggest conspiracy theorists in the country are the governments themselves, the federal government and the state government, because of conspiracy crimes. It's okay if they say conspiracy to commit this, conspiracy to commit that. They can theorize about conspiracy all day, every day. But if somebody else thinks that they might be cooperating to do evil, you're an idiot.
Yes.
So anyway, all right, Mike, that's all I had.
All right, thanks an awful lot. And let's see, it's interesting because apparently there's been some talk about how the government is declassifying the UFO files, which I figure is a sign of the desperation they are to distract people away from the election fraud. We're going to go to Joe in California. Hello, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. Mo's a great caller. I like Mo. I think his wife has something in common with George W. Bush, when George W. Bush was able to look into Putin's eyes and get a sense of his soul. So good on Mo's wife. And I actually want to put out a call for our friend in Brazil to let us know what's going on in Brazil, because we have Bolsonaro being very critical of the vaccines, yet the state governors over there are supportive of it. In fact, you have state governors buying the China vaccine with Bolsonaro denigrating it. So I'd like to hear his views on what's going on. And then quickly, Joe from Tennessee made some good points yesterday about the cryptos. And personally, I don't know much about the cryptos. I'm more of a precious metals guy. But Joe's badly mistaken if he thinks the government's going to allow this, because already you have the whore Christian Lagarde, excuse my French, of the ECB, talking about Bitcoin and money laundering. So it ain't going to happen, Joe. And not to mention the banksters with this cashless society are going to have digital currency and negative interest rates where you can't pull money out of the bank. You can just transfer money from one bank to another or spend it. So that's the reality that we're facing. And as far as all the other Trump lovers out there, I just want to leave you with this, Mike. He failed at the first and most important action by a chief executive, surrounding yourself with loyalists. Surrounding yourself with loyalists. This is obvious to anyone. Do you really think that an Obama or a Biden or any extremist Democrat would appoint a staff that is not unquestionably loyal to their person and agenda?
Yes.
Absolutely not. He failed.
Yeah.
How do you surround yourself with backstabbers?
Well, again, Trump came from the world of business. He was not really ready for the political realities of Washington, D.C. He wanted to be magnanimous in victory and let some of the Obama people stay on in the White House. And that was one of his biggest strategic mistakes. And he should have, replaced all the people in the White House, and he should have gone outside the Beltway to find those people because the job skills required to work in the White House aren't that great. It's all based on connection and family name and so forth and so on. Right. And he had a chance to clean that out. That would have been the first step in draining the swamp or draining the septic tank, and he failed to do it.
But, Mike, he had a great asset in a man that's been in many administrations, Pat Buchanan. And Trump is too busy calling Pat Buchanan a Nazi. Instead, he should have, behind the scenes, invited Pat Buchanan to Trump Tower during the interregnum and said, look, Pat, give me your advice. Who should I appoint? Instead, he's too busy calling Pat Buchanan a Nazi and not utilizing his experience and his brilliance as a Washington insider. So that was a big mistake on Trump's part. And last thing I want to say, Mike, Trump, like all of his predecessors, going back to, of course, LBJ was involved in the actual incident, the USS Liberty. I don't care any president who does not recognize this criminal attack by Israel is not my president. Period. It's beneath the dignity of the office. It tells me that we're not an independent sovereign country. I want to see a president invite all the survivors of that ship to the White House, where they should be awarded their medals of valor, not on some naval yard in Virginia where it actually happened. So all I got to say is good riddance to, as far as Trump's concerned, good riddance to bad rubbish. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Well, I still would have preferred Trump over Biden, but I guess that issue has now been settled. Let's go to Layla in Canada. Hello, Layla. Welcome back to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah. Hi, Mike. I have to respectfully disagree with your suggestion that Trump was too naive to realize that only in politics do people surround themselves with loyalists. Just in the broadcast industry alone, never mind all the other corporations, I've heard of stories that as soon as a company, as soon as the TV station was taken over by a new owner, everybody sent out their resumes because they knew the new owner would bring in his own general manager who would then appoint all his own people, and everybody in the newsroom was dead meat, and they might be kept on long enough if their contract was still in force to train their replacement. But the same happens. I've even heard of stories of the buyers having the general manager tape record something call everybody to a meeting, and then by audio tape. This is in the old days when they used audio tape and not. And
yes, I was trying to call you on that one.
The new owner would say, "Okay, all of you, empty out your desks and get out of the building. Everybody is fired. Period. End of story.
Mm-hmm.
Not even the personal touch." So if that happened, that I've heard of numerous times in the broadcast industry, and I've read loads of stories where every single new CEO who was appointed brought in his own staff. So if Trump worked in New York, which is, the most perverse place par excellence of corruption, then surely he must have encountered treachery and betrayal on a magnificent scale. It can't be new to him unless he was so pampered and so taken care of by his Jewish money financiers that he didn't have to ever worry about anything. That's the only excellent. And also in the construction industry, which is itself notorious for gangs and union gangs and corruption, where everybody hires those who are loyal. Nepotism is rampant. So there's no way that Trump was naive. What he was doing
I beg to disagree. I beg to disagree, and the reason is because he did, in fact, keep a lot of the the Obama people into his administration, and they were the ones who were leading the charge against him in the dark.
Yeah, he was stupid. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Common sense.
All right, I'll go with stupid instead of naive.
Yeah, that was stupid. But he certainly must have been aware. I mean, New York, of all places, he was oblivious to the fact that treachery amongst those closest to you. Anybody who's read any kind of history knows that those who are keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Maybe that's what he was operating on, but if so, that was still either naive or stupid, depending on which way. But certainly it was the dumbest thing, especially because it was his first term. But he also circulated in all the elite circles of both political parties, assuming they are actually different ideologies, which we know they aren't. They're just masquerades, masks they put on. He partied with them. He socialized with them. He contributed tons of money to both parties. He knew how treacherous they were. So there's no way that he was unaware of what would happen. There's no way. And his advisors, his closest friends must have told him. I mean, he had that slimy genius, Roger Stone, advising him, Paul Manafort, and all those others, with tons of experience in politics and treachery. So he must have known. Why he did it is the thing that each of us has to determine with whatever context we put it in. As for Israel wanting to declare any criticism of Israel as anti-Semitic, first of all, the modern Hebrew that they speak is not the old Hebrew. It's not a true Semitic language. And that's the only way that you can say that somebody is Semitic, by reason of the language they come from, they speak, and the area in which they come from, where the language is predominant and the culture is predominant. And their culture was European. So, but secondly, the thing that they have now called anti-Semitism, which was really anti-Jewishness, goes back long before, centuries before, even Shakespeare wrote The Merchant of Venice. Where Shylock was demanding a pound of flesh for a loan that had not been repaid by a Christian. And in today's study guides for children in school, they call the guy who did not pay back the loan to Shylock, they call him an anti-Semitic Christian. So what are we doing? And now Shakespeare, whenever people do the whole repertoire of Shakespeare, they leave out The Merchant of Venice.
Yes, they do.
So, because they don't want to. And the other thing is, every single thing I read on any possible topic always has to include a sentence about Jews. And if you go back, it's just, they're always there. They're ubiquitous. Their presence is they are omnipresent. And that is how there's so many of the good, humane, kind Jews are paying the price for those who control the public dialogue.
Yes, that is true.
It's time that, yeah. I mean, I've got a lot of Jewish friends that I grew up in Montreal, where the city was controlled by the English and the Jews. And I worked in both the McGill hospital facilities, and all the major departments were managed. The head of the department, the chief of the department, was always a Jew, almost always. And so I worked with them. I liked them. They were great people. I socialized with them. And a lot of them were really good people, and they resented the fact that the Zionists had made the word Jew a liability for them.
Yeah, I've heard that from so many people here. Anyway, Layla, we're at a commercial break here. Thank you for the phone call. We're going to let you go. Back with more phone calls after these few words. Welcome back to our show here, and we're going to go back to the telephones now to Dan in Washington State. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Yeah, Trump, I just wanted to say I think a lot of conservatives or people on our side are making the mistake of trying to blame all of the things on the White House that happen on these Antifa. I think there might have been some infiltration. But, look, I think they're making a mistake because they're playing along with the narrative of the Democrats that this was such a horrible terrorist attack, attempt to overthrow the government, all these talking points. And they shouldn't. They should just say, look, there were hundreds of thousands of peaceful protesters. You had a riot, got out of hand. They were obviously let in the Capitol, like some kind of trap. You had a girl get shot. As far as like the guy that stole the lectern, the guy that was in Nancy Pelosi's office, those aren't terrorists. I would say maybe a vandalism charge maximum. I would never call those guys terrorists. They're just stupid. And what really got me was Ted Cruz and Trump. Cruz did it. He's the one that calls them terrorists. He tweeted out, these terrorists need to be brought to justice. So I hope it destroys Ted Cruz's career. I think Trump did. I think those people should use it as in court against Trump and say they were following the president's orders. I think Trump betrayed them. I think I think while this is all going on, Trump was just flying in New York, and he already knew he was out of there. And I think he was scamming money off these people. On Wednesday, on the 13th, he passed a H.R. 221. It was a special envoy to monitor and combat anti-Semitism. So, there you go. I mean, Trump was, in my view, he was just the swamp pretending to fight against the swamp. You could say Lenin, like I think it was Lenin, said, we will lead our opposition to destruction.
Yes.
Protocols of the Other Learners of Zion talk about giving the Goyim a hero from time to time to let them think that you're going to have some revolution or something. And I think Trump has shown that that's really what he is. I don't think he's naive. I think he's just a crook. But hopefully Ted Cruz and some of these guys, we can't betray the people at the White House. If they were stupid and did vandalism, okay, but they're not terrorists, so that's my view. So hopefully it destroys Ted Cruz. I guess he was raising money. Even Cortez on the in the chamber tweeting out, we need to raise more money as all that stuff was going on. And then he comes out and calls them all terrorists. So anyway, have a good weekend, everybody. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you very much here. We're going to switch over to Austin in Dayton, Ohio. And Austin, I'm probably going to take you through the next commercial break. What's on your mind?
Dana.
Hello. Okay, I guess we're going to go to Ken in New York. Hello, Ken in New York. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike.
Hi.
Who is actually in command of the 20,000 or so National Guard in Washington?
Well,
DC?
in theory, each unit is under the command of their state governor, and I understand they even have a contingent up from Puerto Rico. But I imagine there's somebody that's put, basically overseeing the whole operation. But it is a lot of people on the ground in Washington, D.C., 25,000. And they don't have accommodations for them. These guys are sleeping on the floor of the Capitol building. So we'll see what's going to happen.
Well, are they not federalized in some way? Wouldn't the feds have the oversight?
They could be federalized. I mean, back, during the Rodney King riots, they federalized the National Guard before they sent them in. In theory, though, the National Guard are the state's armies, not the federal.
Yeah,
but they're dealing, with Posse Comitatus.
That's more than 2 divisions, isn't it?
Yes. It's a huge force, and they're all going to be armed.
Well, they could either be used to keep somebody out or keep somebody in.
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, there's still all these, rumors unfounded rumors circulating around that there's going to be a last-second surprise that keeps Trump in the presidency, but I really don't hold much credence with that.
What is this business? One more, if you can.
Ken, I got to put you on hold. Ken, I got to put you on hold.
Okay.
Don't hang up. I'm going to come back to you after these words from our sponsors. Welcome back to our show here. We're going to go back to the phones. We're talking with Ken in New York. We're talking about this massive National Guard presence, building in the nation's capital, estimated 25,000 people. They're carrying guns. They apparently have been authorized to use lethal force. All of this to protect what we are told is the most popular president in American history. Okay, are you there? There you go.
Yes, I am. That point I was done with. I was going to ask you, what is this business about the New York bar threatening or trying to pull Rudy Giuliani's bar card? I mean, they violate the first law. They violate the first law of the sea. Sharks do not eat other sharks.
Generally, that's known among lawyers, but in this case, animosity is high, and the New York State Bar Association is trying to revoke Rudy Giuliani's membership. Now, this doesn't mean that, he can't go on being a lawyer because he's got his law license, which is not the same thing as belonging to the Bar Association.
Oh, so it doesn't actually, I thought it actually would stop him.
No.
But it doesn't. Okay.
No.
Okay. I think they were trying to maybe encourage him not to defend Trump afterwards because he probably would be the one.
Yes.
Okay, Mike, thank you for the time.
All right, thank you for the call. We're going to go to Marco in Alabama. Hello, Marco. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
All right. First and foremost, what I'm starting to notice here, dude, is a lot of people, dude, cutting ties and, pretending, dude, that, Trump was, dude, this terrible person and all that stuff. Well, I'm going to tell you guys a little bit of story about me. Before the 2016 election, I was a liberal and all that stuff. And, in the grand scheme of things, dude, I, came across, dude, Alex Jones and was interested, into this, down near had an anxiety attack, dude, when I figured out, dude, the truth. When everything started to add up, when I started to realize, dude, why, I was being boycotted. I had a business and I was being boycotted, because, I didn't, hire, my quota of minorities. The Democrats in 2008 were taken over by the Communist Party and basically, they pushed out all of their good members. That's how Trump, had the crossover appeal with liberals. That's how, obviously I don't sound Southern living in Alabama. I was once living in Wisconsin. I moved down to where I live because I saw 50,000 patriotic Americans, dude, who believed in the same things that I believed in. Didn't like, the social justice. Didn't like, being told, dude, that I'm a bigot because I don't support gay rights because I'm straight and it doesn't bother me or anything like that. I don't like, I didn't like being pushed on. I didn't like, affirmative action being pushed on me and things like that because, I wanted to hire the best qualified people, dude, to possibly help me because, when you're a struggling, fledgling business, dude, what do they tell you in business school? That 80% of businesses fail and whatnot.
Yes.
Basically, I voted for Donald Trump, dude, because, dude, he stood for America. I knew who Donald Trump was. Don't sit here and pretend, dude, like you guys didn't know who Donald Trump was and that he was naive and all that stuff. Because you have to grease the mob, in order to get buildings built. You have to grease the Teamsters in order to get buildings built. The ice skating rink and all that stuff, dude, that he was heralded in New York, dude, for creating, was based off of that. He knew what he was doing. He wasn't naive. And to sit here and say, Trump messed up, dude, by, putting all of these terrible people, dude, next to us, what could he do? In all reality, you needed to have, in order to defeat gangsters, we needed a gangster. We didn't sit here and vote for, Joe Clean conservative, because Joe Clean conservative would not have beaten Hillary Clinton. Joe Clean conservative would have not gotten through the primary. You people forget, dude, easily, how this came to be. And all of a sudden, dude, now that, Trump's apparently possibly leaving us and that all of us are being threatened, dude, by liberals and all that stuff. See, the problem with Republicans, and conservatives for that matter, is that they never take the liberals at their word. They always sit there and be like, you want to know what, dude? I'm not going to go and protest because I have a job. I'm not going to go out, dude, and fight for, the rights, dude, of my fellow man, dude, because there's always going to be somebody else there, dude, to sit here and do it for me and all that stuff. When Donald Trump, dude, brought liberals into the party, when Donald Trump brought me into the party and all that stuff, I bypassed all of you normie conservatives and went right to the hardest part of the right, dude, because I was a liberal, dude, and we knew how to protest and all that stuff. And this is the problem, dude, with Republicans, man. We're just letting this country go. We are just letting these people just walk right in. And all that stuff, man. And you can sit here and give me all this rah-rah, dude, about how you're not going to let any of this happen and all that stuff, dude. But when you back away, dude, from Donald Trump, dude, and all that stuff, at this current juncture and point, they already got your names. They already know, dude, who you voted for. So why are you sitting here trying to separate us so that we all hang individually instead of hanging together?
Good points. Good speech.
I'm tired of this crap, Mike. I'm tired of hearing, dude, about how, I'm so elitist, dude, and Trump's a buffoon and all that stuff. You voted for him. You all voted for him. And all that. So don't even sit here and hand me this crap. I'm tired of this resentment and all that stuff. Yeah, you want to know what, dude? If Trump, dude, gave us 30% of the things, dude, that he offered, it's better than what we would have gotten under Hillary. It's better than what we would have got under Jeb Bush. And all of you should be damn thankful that we had a 4-year reprieve because we're all about to go through hell.
Yes, we are.
I'm not going to sugarcoat this shit. And they're going to try to kill us.
Please watch your language on the radio. Sorry about that. Please, got to watch your language.
Man, I'm not sugarcoating it.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sorry. And to sit here and trade barbs, dude, with all of you people, dude, when I was one of the first people, dude, being silenced, and all that stuff, the Democrats were the first people being silenced. So if you guys think, dude, that you guys are special, dude, it happened to us, dude, in 2008. It was happening when our party got infiltrated, and now the same people, dude, that are infiltrated our party are infiltrating, the Republican Party to create discernment and dissentment.
Okay.
I mean, let's put this where it lies. I mean, Layla's right. He wasn't naive. He wasn't naive. You got to have the swamp monsters. You got to have the ghouls, as Alex Jones says, dude, near you. What's up to keep your enemies close. What's up, man? There was no other way he'd survive. There's no
Well, I'm not sure I agree with you on that one. I still think it was a strategic mistake to not completely replace the staff when Trump came on in with people from outside the Beltway. Remember when Obama got elected, he fired every single U.S. attorney in the country.
How we would not have the information that we had now had he done that. We would have not had the information that we have now. We would have never known due to Bill Clinton and Hillary and all the crimes and all that stuff, dude, dealing with normie conservatives. Normie conservatives, dude, have been ineffectual. That's why we voted for Donald Trump, dude, because we wanted somebody to fight. We needed a gangster to fight gangsters.
Okay.
And I'm going to leave you guys with that, dude. I love all of you, man. We're all going to hang together, dude, if this is going to go. I ain't letting none of you guys, dude, sit here and escape, dude, and sit here and think like, oh, man, now that things are bad, now that things are at its lowest, and all that stuff, man, Trump wasn't nothing. And all that stuff, dude. He gave all of you a 4-year reprieve, and you all should be grateful.
Okay. Well, thank you for the phone call and for the insights there, and we're going to switch over to James in Vancouver. Hello, James. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, hello. I called you last week, and I forgot to mention that the Central Intelligence Agency really likes to go after members of Congress.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Probably those other agents. So that senator or congresswoman or whatever that said, well, I would have protested the vote, but because all of these radicals were here scaring me, I decided to run away. Anyway, just to mention the Trump presidency, every president has had loyalists around him. I mean, Kennedy had loyalists around him too, and that didn't work. And Johnson had loyalists. And even he was betrayed. And it goes back to the idea that, of course, the presidency is the most powerful job there is in the republic, and everybody wants some of that power. And that's what you have to deal with. And I think Donald Trump understood that, like the last gentleman that called. Donald Trump understood that very well, I think, and there were things that he did, he could have done, like the voting thing, getting that fixed. That's a big job because you're up against these governors and such. And the governors, again, because they want power, they dug in, and said, no. You see what I'm saying?
Yes, I see what you're saying.
But now we have to figure out how to keep the republic, how to save the republic. And
that's a very, very tall order. I mean, we have all these people talking about revolution, civil war, secession, balkanizing the United States.
Okay. Well, my last reference is that right now I'm trying to study and read the discourses by Machiavelli. And in the discourses, Machiavelli talks about how to maintain and save a republic based on his observations of the Roman Republic, you see.
Yes.
And this is one thing I'm working on right now. And I'm coming up with a lot of ideas, and I can't give them all to you now, but I was able to publish a book, by the way, on the 30th of December, 2020. And in the preface of my book, I actually mentioned that the election had been stolen in the United States, and I'm going to see what the publishers or what the general public think of what I wrote. But anyway, God bless the Republic.
Absolutely. Thank you very much here. And we're going to switch over to Kyle in Berlin. Hello, Kyle. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi. Hello, Mike. Well, that was very good that chap published the book, but I suppose it wasn't from a top publisher, otherwise it would be banned.
It may yet be. I mean, they're really cracking down in this country. I mean, freedom of speech is just going away, and it's all being handled by the corporations to get the government off the hook for the First Amendment. That's why I say we're headed into fascism, which is when corporate interests and government interests are aligned against the people.
Well, indeed, from Freedom for Fascism. I called him a couple of months ago or so. Basically, what's happening now in Germany is we're having the lockdown until April or May.
Oh, wow.
And what seems to be the case, Mike, is that, yeah, it's terrible. What seems to be the case is we'll do a little lockdown and bam, let's do a little. It's just absolutely terrible. Now, your other caller, Mark, I have a slight bone to pick with him because he said he was a business owner and then he talked about homosexuals and he was talking about dude all the time. Well, I'm not sure. Perhaps the dude was plural, but we'll just keep it at that.
Okay.
My opinion. The main thing is, I believe, and I've looked into this in terrible detail, if you look at the Capitol riot or the Capitol siege, it has a similarity to the Reichstag fire in the sense
yes, it
that
does.
it was all to get somebody else. It was all to get a particular group. What do you think about that, Mike?
Oh, no question. I mean, a lot of people have already drawn parallels between the protest at the Capitol and the Reichstag fire, also with 9/11.
Yes, indeed. You know, it's just such a shame because on the mainstream media, nothing of this kind of thing is happening. Nobody can see this.
No.
But in any case, in Europe, it's all going into lockdown extra again.
Mm-hmm.
In the UK, for example, today, I mean, I'm a British citizen, for example, though I have a house in Germany. In the UK, it came in that you can only get into the UK now with a test.
Yes.
Now, you and I will both know the test, you could have a test one day, it could be positive, the next day negative, the next day positive. Look
yes.
at Dr. Carrie Mullis. I mean, one of the companies I own was very well into the PCR testing and
yes.
The other one, the IgM, IgG, you know, the rapid testing. And I said, look, chaps. Well, I didn't say it like that. I said it a bit more forcefully.
Okay.
I said, look, we're not going to sell these things. And, you know, my right-hand man said to me, yes, but there's big money to be made. I said, no, we're not going to sell it because it's a total, complete fraud. And that's what it is. So, you know, it's just one of those things. It's the world we're living in. But I just wanted to do a couple of shout-outs. Mark in North Carolina, fantastic caller. He does go on a bit, but don't we all?
Yes.
Peter in Los Angeles, fantastic. Layla, I'm very glad she's back.
Yes, me too.
You know, she's kind of changed the terrain, but hopefully it's still her. Thank you very much, Mike.
All right. Well, thank you very much here. And we're going to go to, surprisingly, Mark in North Carolina. Mark, your ears must be burning. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, what's going on? I don't know if you covered this yet. I turned you on late today. I got home late. But the Yarnell Sullivan, the guy who people suspected might have been BLM,
yes.
Antifa, well, guess what? He was arrested. So there you go. Now, I'm surprised that the FBI wind up doing that because I believe this guy
but they
is
can still
probably...
drop the charges here. Mark, I got to put you on hold. Don't hang up. So we're going to take our last commercial break, and I'm going to come right back to you. We'll be back after these few words. Welcome back to our show here, last segment of our program on this Powhana Friday, and we're talking with Mark in North Carolina. Mark, take it away.
Okay, I heard this earlier on Alex Jones, okay? While he was talking, of all people, to Larry Pinckney, one of the former original heads of the Black Panther Party, who knows all about COINTELPRO,
yep.
and said that he was... Now, I think I went and checked on DuckDuckGo because that's my search engine for months now. Okay, and I found out, yes, sure enough, this what Jonas said is absolutely true. He was arrested. He was released originally from something else. He was involved in something in Utah that happened, including, I think there was even a shooting there a few months ago. They're at a BLM practice. He belongs to some organization, not called BLM, but it's really connected to BLM Antifa.
Yeah.
So this guy, but there needs to be more made of this, because this shows you that Antifa, and I believe the FBI was involved. Now, this is what I think is going to happen, though. Okay, would not surprise me if this guy gets Epstein in jail, because if he probably knows who the FBI were the ones that that probably hired him in the first place. I also understand he's a certain general that was. This is Alex. I haven't looked at it. I want to look this up myself.
Yes,
was actually accused of smuggling nuclear parts of the nuclear switches or something like that from nuclear bombs. I don't know who he sold them to or gave them to or let them go to, but very possibly the Chinese. So this guy, this is very big, I think. And like I said, unfortunately, I expect he's probably going to get Epstein somewhere in jail.
Yeah, a lot of what we're going on right now. All of a sudden, we see a lot of Republican legislators, shuffling off their mortal coil, as it were. Anyway, listen, I need to let you go. We got one more phone call. I'm going to try and cram in here before the end of the show. So let's go to Miles in Maine. Hello, Miles. Welcome to the show. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm keeping my streak up of being the last caller, but first of all, Michael, I'd like to know how Lady Claire is, because we haven't been hearing from her.
She's working on a new piece of music. She's across the hallway right now. She's writing a new piece of music for the local church, and she just needed to take a break away from the politics, and I absolutely understand and agree, because it can get really, really upsetting and depressing.
All right, well, let her know Miles is thinking about her anyway.
I will. I certainly will.
Anyway, Michael, thank you. And, again, I'm so tired of hearing these people, and I agree with Marco. A lot of things he said was great. These people blame Trump. Trump does more in 15 minutes than probably a lot of these people do in their lives. I mean, I talk to these people all the time. I ask them, you call your state representative? No. You call your congressman when all this stuff's going on? No. And then you get the results you get, and everybody complains. I ask people all the time, why aren't you boycotting these stores? You can do that. You can find another store.
You definitely can do that.
Like Winston Churchill said. Yeah.
Okay, Miles, I got to let you go. The music is playing. We got to let you go. Sorry to cut you off. That's what you get for being the last caller of the day. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots of interesting things to share with you. Please spread the word of Republic Broadcasting. Please spread the word of whatreallyhappened.com. Please donate. Have a good and safe weekend. Apparently, Roger Landry is on with John tonight. We'll be back on Monday. Aloha, America.